Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me as always is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
This week, K-pop idols have been speaking out on Asian hate. You most likely have heard about the shootings in Atlanta this past week. If you haven't heard about this, on Tuesday, March 16th, 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long killed 8 people and injured multiple others in a shooting rampage at 3 massage parlors in the Atlanta area. He was arrested Tuesday night on his way to Florida. He is currently charged with 8 counts of murder and 1 count of aggravated assault. Long revealed his motivations to investigators, saying he targeted the businesses for providing an outlet for his addiction to sex. 6 of the 8 victims in the shooting rampage were women of Asian descent, and 2 were white men. The investigators explicitly asked Long if his attack was racially motivated. He said that it was not. So following these events, many people in Asian communities are raising their voices against these crimes. K-pop idols such as Jackson Wang and Mark from GOT7 and Amber from FX have joined to share their message against Asian hate. On March 18th, K-pop celebrities shared the message to Twitter with the hashtag #StopAsianHate. Jackson Wang's message said, "As an Asian myself, what has been happening is truly heartbreaking. Hatred and racism of any kind are not acceptable. I truly believe no one is born hating. Those who have hated must have learned to hate. If anyone can learn to hate, then they can learn to love."
What are your thoughts?
It's hard to know where to start with this. I know it's really being talked about among fans of K-pop because they feel that people should speak out. And of course, this is a horrible tragedy and it's awful if anybody gets murdered. So I think we should definitely be condemning violence that happened. And I don't think it should matter what the race of the victims are or the race of the attacker is. But I feel like the story is kind of taking on its own
Right.
flavor. Like they're making it into more of a hate crime story than anything else.
It's definitely a hate crime story now, the way it's being presented. Well, first of all, I would caution people, it's not always clear what's a hate crime and what's not. I mean, there's a legal definition for a hate crime, and there's also a common sense one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just because a crime involves people of 2 different races doesn't qualify it as a hate crime.
Right.
There has to be more than that. That could just be incidentally a crime involving people of 2 different races. So there's standards for this sort of thing. So even in any situation, not just this one, in any situation, just assuming that that's the case is not necessarily a sound assumption. But let's even assume that it is for the sake of argument. You know, obviously it's unfortunate, but I can say as an Asian American in the United States, you know, living in California, I personally feel safe. I don't feel particularly endangered by hate crimes. I don't get the sense that I'm in more danger now than I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. That's not to say I'm not in zero danger. I think at any point people are in some amount of risk, but I don't feel a huge spike, right? But that's not to say there hasn't been a spike in crimes against Asian Americans. I think there has been.
Yeah.
But I'm not so quick to assume that, yes, this is because of hatred.
The stats say there's an increase in crime in all the big cities.
That might be a sort of a common sense assumption, but I'm not sure that we can say for sure that that's the reason. It might be an increase in crime.
Yeah.
Has crime increased in general? If crime in general has increased, then crimes against Asians would also logically increase, right?
Right. It's overall violent crime has increased in all the big cities.
Okay, well, there you go. So we would have to compare those 2 statistics, right? So even though I feel personally safe, I'm not ruling out that things are less safe for Asians or for anyone. I mean, I feel safe because, number one, I make sure I'm able to defend myself. And number 2, I've endeavored to reach a socioeconomic bracket where I'm safer. Mm-hmm. So that's an element of privilege, but I feel safe, you know? And I have no problem with K-pop artists or most people saying that they're against hate crimes against Asians. I think most people have good intentions. You know, they just think, well, are hate crimes good or bad? Yeah, I think they're bad. That's not a controversial stance.
I agree. I think they're being very sympathetic. They feel like as public figures, we need to speak about this, especially if there's crimes against Asians. We should be the ones to say something about it and use our platform to spread a good message. And if they like
K-pop, maybe they feel like... But what I would say is that even though I think most people have good intentions, either because they're just well-intentioned people or they're not that well read on this topic. Some people are just trying to push an agenda. Okay, and this is going to be a little controversial, but crimes against Asian people, and keep in mind, I don't assume that all crimes against Asian people are hate crimes, okay? But they've been happening for a long while, and this spike before this recent Atlanta shooting, the fact of the matter is most perpetrators of crimes against Asian people have not been white. But now there's a lot of energy talking about, oh my God, we got to stand with Asians.
Right.
Because these people are standing with you now, standing with me now, in order to push their own agenda that white supremacy is the root cause of everything. And those people aren't really here to protect me. They don't really care about me. They care about their own agenda, which is, oh, now we can blame white people, so let's talk about this thing now. But you see, they didn't have that same energy in the past 6 months, the past year, the past 2 years, when the perpetrators generally weren't white, because that didn't conveniently fit their narrative. And I'm not even saying those crimes were hate crimes necessarily, but I don't think they were white supremacists. That's not, white supremacy wasn't the cause because none of the people involved in this stuff were white.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually Asians and other people of color, okay?
Right.
So if you didn't have that same energy, I think I'm a little bit suspicious you might be one of those people who are just jumping on this bandwagon to push your own agenda that whites are at fault for everything. And I just don't agree with it. It's a broader problem than that. It's not down to any one or two races, you know? I don't think racial hatred, if even, and this is unsubstantiated, if even most of these crimes are hate crimes, it's not about white supremacy, it's about racism. And all people are capable of racism.
So this one story, and it's horrible, but it got so much more attention than all the other instances of violence.
Yeah, this stuff has been going on a while. And they didn't talk, did they talk about the elderly people being attacked in California? No. Did that get national attention? It's been buried. I and other Asian people in California have been paying attention to it because it's close to us. But have other people been talking about it? Has the national news media been talking about it? Barely. Maybe an article here or there. And then there was no hashtag stand against Asian hate. I know that for sure. Because the facts were not convenient to this narrative that they subscribe to. And I'm sorry, you can miss me with that if the only reason why you're doing this hashtag is to, push your own agenda about white supremacy. Because that's not the real problem. The real problem is way more complex than that. And another thing I don't want to hear is that, oh gosh, you know what? It is down to white supremacy still because of all the, the rhetoric surrounding COVID, the past 4 years of a Trump presidency. It's like, I've been living here and these sorts of issues go back way before 2016. So no, I'll put the kibosh on that. That's not the problem either. These are, long-held tensions that exist between communities. And it's not to say anybody's right or wrong. It's a complex problem. But it's not a problem that's only existed since 2016. And if you're jumping on it now, in 2021, because you can use it as a cudgel against the whites, well, here's another example of white supremacy. It's like, no, this is an issue that's gone way back, okay? And it doesn't even really involve them. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't. That's my position on it. And that's as a person living in one of the states where a lot of these things are occurring, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of these communities live amongst each other and have friction with each other. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible when talking about it's a sensitive issue, but that's the truth about it. I'm not assigning blame necessarily to anybody, but I am going to call out people who just sort of want to jump on this to push their own narrative. Because that's not helpful to me. That's not helpful to the Asian community. Like, you'll move on to the next thing when this is an old story, and the Asian community will still be dealing with these same sorts of tensions and the root causes of these problems. And your attention will be long gone, and your hashtag will be long gone.
Even in the All Kpop article, it was talking about there's a surge in hate crimes directed at Asians in the United States. And they said there's reports of Asians being assaulted and blamed for COVID-19. Everybody repeats that, and it's really not substantiated. Just the fact that we were saying, oh, the virus is from Wuhan, China. It's from China. China virus, like all that. People think that there's more violence just because of that, just because we know where the virus is from. And there's nothing to back that up. That's just being used as an excuse. And the fact that there's, I think, was it like 150% more violence against Asians now. But you have to remember last year, there was a lot of rioting all through the year 2020. There was a lot of unrest going on. There was BLM. And then there was a lot of cities, they decided, we're going to defund the police. And so, of course, Asians are going to get more attacks on them when there's less police. So I think you just have to look at all these other things that are going on in the world and don't just say, well, somebody hates Asians. Like, that's such a simple idea, and it's like that's not what's actually happening. That's just a story that's being put together.
I mean, it could be. Not in my personal experience. Have not experienced more hatred against me, but I mean, it definitely could be. Some people do blame Asians for COVID, but I have a feeling those people were always racist, and this is just a flashpoint and an excuse for them. So these things could be true, but this is not an in-depth look at the actual data. It's sort of just a gut reaction to viral stories.
Yeah.
And in a country with 360 million people, viral stories don't really indicate anything. Viral stories sort of indicate what people are interested in seeing at the time, right? That's why they're viral. But it's not a broad view of what's actually happening on the ground. So give me a solid analysis of whether this crime is outpacing general crime, right? Like we said, if general crime is increasing, then of course crime against Asians will increase too. And give me some sort of substantiation that these are hate crimes. Remember, there's a standard for that. It's not just, well, people of two different races were involved, therefore it's a hate crime. That's a really dumb standard, because then like a third of all crimes are hate crimes, even if they were not. So there needs to be something more substantive than that. It's very difficult to do, but people should try to do is not overemphasize the things that are viral. Right? Like, oh, this is occupying the news cycle, therefore this is what's happening. There's a lot of stuff happening in the country. Unfortunately, you have to look at the actual statistics of it.
But that's what's very insidious about the media. It's like if you emphasize certain things and ignore other things, you can play with people's emotions. Like, they really want Asians in America to feel like they're unsafe or they're helpless or they're about to be attacked at any minute. And it's like, wait, why do they want us to think that? That's really suspicious, you know? And yeah. I think crime overall, it's gone up for multiple reasons. Like, unemployment is up because of the pandemic, because a lot of people can't work, and so people get desperate, and maybe they're more likely to try to steal from businesses or people just on the street. And it's like a lot of businesses are owned by Asians, and it's like just the one person there. So I think that could be a reason why there's a lot of violence against Asians in the past year. So I mean, it's not like about hatred. It's like people are desperate and people are like out of work.
Right.
There's been another controversy which involves BTS being targeted for ridicule by the Topps company, which creates collectible cards. And they had created a set of Garbage Pail Kid cards related to the Grammy Awards. And after the Grammys, well, we know they didn't win, so the Topps people released their Garbage Pail Kids. It was like a special set, which I don't think they even printed yet. They just had drawings for, and it had an illustration for the BTS card, and it showed them in a whack-a-mole game, basically. Like, their heads were popping up, and then a Grammy trophy was being used to hit them, and then they were like looking up at, like, bruised and everything. And I didn't have an issue with that because that's actually what a Garbage Pail Kid card would look like. It shows some kind of like gross situation or someone being very injured and, you know, like puking on themselves or, you know, various things. Like, if you've ever seen Garbage Pail Kids, it's from like the 80s and 90s, and it showed all, you know, illustrations like that. But the problem is it showed BTS like that, but then all the other cards for the other artists, like, oh, they looked normal. They weren't being like beat up or have any kind of deformity or gruesome situation going on. So that makes it very upsetting, and a lot of people thought, you know, this is racist, this is offensive. And I kind of don't even blame people for this one, because it's like, why is only BTS shown like that? And I don't think it was because of racism. I think they just feel like, well, BTS, that's an easy target, and let's make a funny situation out of this not winning a Grammy thing. And it's like, first of all, too soon. We don't want to hear anything making light of that. And second of all, I think they didn't want to depict the other artists in any like gross way or like not looking good, because they didn't want any like blowback from one of those artists. Because like the Taylor Swift card, she just looked normal. She just looked like, oh, I'm singing. But imagine if they had a Taylor Swift card and she was like puking on herself or something. Like she would have complained so loud about that. She'd be like, "That's sexism. That's this and that." And
would she though? Does anyone even care about tops? Well, I'm just surprised they had the animation or the art ready so quickly. Did they know they were going to lose?
Oh,
or did they just assume they're going to lose?
That's a good question. Conspiracy.
Well, number one, I saw the article that this is contributing to Asian hate and violence. Number one, no, I don't agree with that. I believe there's about 13 people who care about Garbage Pail Kids cards. And out of those, probably you're not making any of them commit violence against Asians based on these cards. I have not even heard these names in so long.
Yeah.
Like, Top still makes cards? What is the point of cards in 2021?
Right.
What is the point of cards? Guys, people are trading like NFTs on the blockchain. That's the new card. Are you actually putting stuff on pieces of paper?
Yeah.
This is like 1990. What are you talking about?
Pieces of paper versus like
pieces of paper? Make an NFT
things.
or something. But I have a feeling that this was intentional. It's one of those let's court controversy because it'll get our name out there. It's free publicity, essentially. I don't know that it's good publicity, but it's free publicity. And I have not heard of Tops or Garbage Pail Kids in so long.
Yeah, I haven't heard those words in like decades.
Right. So I almost think it's intentional just to get people talking about them.
That could be, because anybody who uses BTS for clout, it's like, oh, instantly viral.
Right. And you know what? It worked. Yeah. So if you didn't like it, your best response is to not talk about it and ignore it, because I kind of have the sense that their goal was to just make it viral.
They didn't print any cards, so I don't know if it was because of the timing or whatever, but it's like the next day they're like, oh, we're sorry, we apologize for that. And yeah, now that you say that, it does sound like it was for attention. And I don't know why they even designed the card like that, like a whack-a-mole with a Grammy trophy.
Well, you get it. They don't win Grammys, so then they're being punished by them or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like that as a metaphor, yeah,
right.
I get that. But I thought they would do something having to do with dynamite, which would make a lot more sense.
No.
Like if they were being blown up or something by dynamite, because that's their song that they were nominated
because for. the message is that the Grammys is beating them.
Yeah.
And they're being abused by them or something like that.
Oh, that is true. They are being abused by the Grammys.
But see, I'm sure that most ARMY would agree with that sentiment, the underlying sentiment.
Yeah.
That they're being mistreated by the Grammys, correct?
I think the fact that it was just so visual, I think the theme of the card was lost amongst people, because they just reacted to like, whoa, they look all beat up and like fearful and stuff.
Well,
but yeah,
I think he might have gotten played.
It does seem like maybe
they wanted publicity.
Tops was on their side with that, as saying the Grammys was unfair.
I'm just surprised it's still a company that produces products.
I'm shocked that that's even still made. I thought that went away with comic books and like
comic books didn't go away.
Cards and stuff.
They're very small, but they're still around.
Yeah, comic stores, you see them, they're closing down. Like,
oh yeah, there's no comic stores.
A lot of places.
There technically are comic books out there. Oh, there's some stores.
So another question I am bringing up this week is, what do we think BTS is going to do with the Map of the Soul tour? Because if you bought tickets to this concert, it still says in Ticketmaster or StubHub or wherever it is you got it, it still says postponed. And we all know it was postponed because of the pandemic. They couldn't perform and they couldn't travel to here. We had tickets to the Levi Stadium show, which would have been April 25th or 26th, 2020. And ever since then, like over a year now, it's been saying postponed. And they haven't given us any word on what they're going to do with that. But on February 26th, Taylor Swift canceled her tour, and the California dates were going to be July 25th and 26th at SoFi Stadium, and the refunds are starting to get sent through Ticketmaster and StubHub. So that made me think, okay, is BTS going to make a decision on that pretty soon? Because if major artists are, making decisions on what to do with the tours that they couldn't do, then maybe we'll hear back from BTS pretty soon on that.
Right. What are they going to do? They're going to try to... Big Hit doesn't want to give up this money. They're going to try to make a tour happen.
Yeah, that's a lot of money that's tied up right now.
Yeah.
And right now, they have it, right? They've received all our money. They would have to give it back if they were
Yes,
gonna.
they would have to give it back. And I'm not sure Big Hit is even in position to do that. They've apparently bought a bunch of stuff recently. So yeah, they're not trying to give that money back.
Yeah,
And if
very
they canceled, they'd
interesting.
have to.
Taylor Swift canceled hers, which, I mean, I don't know if I was surprised or not surprised, but I guess that was the decision she made, is to give all that money back and start over. Next time she tours, it'll be called something else, and everybody has to buy their tickets all over again.
Right.
So I guess from her team, they thought it's better to do it that way. But I don't know. BTS, this is like many more cities, a lot more money was involved. So I don't know if there's even like an easy decision
she only
here.
had 2 dates. She only had 2 locations. It was much easier for her. So this is more money for BTS, I'm almost certain.
This sounds like a huge headache for
they have to
accountants.
They have to try to keep this thing going. They don't want to refund you the money, that's for sure. So it's not going to get canceled. And I don't want it to get canceled because, like we said earlier, we got second row seats for one of these things. I don't want to. It's not likely that I'll be able to buy those tickets again. You know?
Yeah, and remember you got the Special Army membership just to have earlier access to tickets.
Well, I'd still have that.
Oh, it expired now though. It's been
so
over
I have
a
to
year.
buy again. Oh, okay. Well, that was just like $40 or whatever.
We never got our kit either.
Oh, the kit?
Right. Whatever was.
Did I request it?
Well, it's supposed to automatically.
Oh, they didn't send it to us? Oh, I should complain about that.
Where's
I want the
kit?
The thing or whatever that I'm owed. Yeah, they never sent me anything like of the sort. Anyway, I hope they don't cancel because got really good seats.
Well, I was just thinking about the pros and cons of this, and the pros of keeping the same concert dates is fans like us, we like the tickets we got. We don't want to give it back and have to start over that whole process. But the cons would be, like, what about all the new fans? Like, if you just started being a fan of BTS because of Dynamite or because of B, or maybe you just recently saw them on MTV Unplugged, like, you can't get concert tickets then if they have this same tour. So I guess you could, because some people
You could get on StubHub.
got refunds. It's going to cost a lot more, but
You could get it off StubHub.
there's some tickets, but not as many. But yeah, I guess it would be a harder time for a new fan to try to see them in concert if they keep the same
You can get it off
dates.
StubHub. But I don't think they will refund or cancel.
I thought they would, just because they can cancel it and
And then when they have to give the money back.
yeah, give the money back, but then maybe they'll charge more for the next tour because they're more popular now.
No. That money has been spent. That's the thing you need to keep in mind.
Right.
The money has been spent. So I believe, I don't know for sure. I don't work at Big Hit.
It's like Social Security. It's like that money's gone
It's
already.
gone. It's gone.
That's true. I wonder if that's the situation they have to deal with, or they've already decided and they just haven't announced it yet.
I just hope that whenever the tour does happen, it's not like a 5-member group. Like it's so far into the future, you know?
Oh,
that would suck.
That's true. It could be.
Hopefully it's within the next year and a half.
I saw The Weeknd. He's rescheduled his tour and it starts in 2022. So he's just like aiming for, you know, over a year from now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That could happen with BTS. I don't know who they're in contact with about which cities. And it's like, when can you have concerts yet? And we still don't know. A North Korean news website has reported that K-pop idols in South Korea are being treated like slaves by large companies and living a miserable life. The propaganda website on March 13th updated its Arirang news section with a report headlined, South Korean youth singers owned by big companies forced to live miserably, according to NK Economy, a South Korean news outlet that reported the news. And this article specifically mentioned BTS and Blackpink as examples and said that most of them signed exclusive contracts with large companies such as SM Entertainment at a young age and were trained to become pop stars. It's like, first of all, okay, they named 2 groups and neither of those groups are SM. So that's like not factually correct. But I think they brought up those 2 groups because of their popularity, but then I think they're trying to say SM does this the most. And that's why they worded it like that.
Well, you have to keep in mind first of all, I was surprised there's an actual website in North Korea. They maintain a website. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
For North Korea.
They don't have a lot of internet users.
Yeah. It's like a dark patch on Earth. If you ever see like satellite pictures of the Earth, all the other countries are lit up at night because they have electricity and buildings that use lights.
Mm-hmm.
North Korea's all dark though because they're poor and backwards. So I'm kind of surprised that they even have a propaganda website. But clearly they don't. And no knock against the people that work there because it's tough being in North Korea and working on anything, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they didn't get the facts right for the most part. You're right. You know,
I'm just-
BTS and Blackpink are not slaves. Although they do, in a roundabout way, have some of the facts right. I mean, it is a tough life to be a, K-pop trainee.
Yeah. It's maybe it's all in how you spin it. It's a lot of hard work. They do have to sign on at a young age.
Yeah.
But they made it sound like, well, you're signing your life away.
Right.
And
They made it sound like it's any tougher than being in North Korea doing anything.
What about people
Which it's not, by the way. I guarantee you that the person that has the hardest life in K-pop, like the trainee that has it worse, would still not want to trade that for living in North Korea.
Oh, yeah.
Doing anything.
For sure.
So maybe they're trying to make it sound like, hey, look at this. South Korea isn't that great, guys. It's actually pretty tough, and they abuse these pop stars. It's actually not that great.
That's what I'm confused about. It's
not, but it's still better than North Korea.
What was the motivation for this article? Because
to sort of downplay how good things are in South Korea, right? Because they're always wanting to say, hey, things are good here. Things are not so good over there.
Right.
Or do North Koreans even have access to this site? They must.
Yeah.
The propaganda is probably mostly for North Koreans, right? Unless the North Koreans are so delusional that they think this propaganda is going to change anybody's mind outside of there, because it's not.
I think
so it's probably for the benefit of them.
Some people were speculating that K-pop is gaining popularity over there, and so maybe
probably.
they want to let's put out some negative stories, because otherwise people are going to think, wow, South Korea is so awesome and better than North Korea. But I thought they wanted a cultural exchange, and that's why South Korea sent artists over there to do that concert in 2018 that Red Velvet performed at. Like, I thought we were trying to they were trying to unify, and it's like, here, listen to some of our music. We will
trying to unify? No.
I mean, just as far as culturally, like, let's share information and
I don't think
let's
there was
get
any.
along.
I don't think that was. I think it was just like a publicity
like
thing.
a show.
Yeah, I don't think there was any actual cultural exchange.
Like they didn't say, okay, everybody in North Korea, you can listen to K-pop.
Well,
now.
first of all, I doubt very much that North Korea has that much culture to share, and also. And some of their comments were so funny because it says something like, did you know that K-pop stars are expected to do sexual favors and stuff? Like, yeah, like that doesn't happen in North Korea. That really happens in North Korea.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Like, young people use for various things.
Yeah,
and
so
being coerced. Yeah, that happens everywhere.
And it happens more often in North Korea than South Korea. I'm willing to bet my life
in
savings on that.
It's a dictatorship, of course. There's women that are pushed into that.
Feels like a fair bit of projection on their part. They're just it's propaganda for their own people, essentially. But I found it amusing that they even have internet and they have a propaganda site.
I wonder do you think they were just being factually wrong when they said BTS, Blackpink, and SM, or do you think they've heard things about Lee Soo-man and so they're like, let's make sure we talk about SM?
You know, it being a propaganda site, I don't think the journalistic standards are that high to begin with. So they can just sort of just write whatever they want. Yeah.
I think they just used the biggest names that they could think of, and it's like, oh, everybody knows SM as a company, and since they sent their group for that concert, that's the one that people know. So let's attack SM.
And they probably researched some, websites and read some stories about SM.
Yeah, and I think what makes this article believable is like some of this was like, yeah, that is kind of true. It's like there were some K-pop stars that have committed suicide, and we don't totally know why.
Some of it is factual.
And people gossip about why they did, why people killed themselves, and who knows if it's related to the stress of their job and working for a label, what things you might have been forced to do, or what you had to do in your career. So I don't know. But they're just repeating gossip. They don't really have their reporters out there finding out what actually happened. I think, like you said, this is just meant to criticize K-pop in the eyes of North Korean citizens. So Big Hit Labels posted a video on YouTube on March 17th, and it's kind of a different type of video than we're used to seeing from Big Hit. Each group under Big Hit Labels had a skit about what they believe in, and each group had to finish the sentence, I believe in blank. They had funny situation where they showed what that was. So for HYBE, it showed them going places together, and their thing was, I believe in teamwork, which that makes sense because they were all on a competition show together, competing against each other, but then at the end of it, they had to be a team together. So I believe in teamwork. 17, I believe in setting goals. That one was a very normal one. It was just having to do with producing music, so it made sense. GFriend, it showed them all working out in some kind of futuristic gym, and their slogan was, I believe in myself. And then Newest showed them working in this sitcom workplace, playing pranks on each other, and their slogan was, I believe in smile. That one was weird, and I think maybe there's some Korean humor there that we aren't really clued in on. And then TXT had the weirdest one. I don't know if the groups came up with these things themselves, but theirs was like, Hooning Kai was saying, I believe in pineapple pizza. It's like he was obsessed with getting pineapple pizza, and it was so different from everyone else's message. So I don't understand what was the reasoning behind theirs. Maybe they just wanted a funny one, and it's like, let's say pineapple pizza. But all the other ones had to do with like teamwork and goals, things to aspire to. And then BTS's skit was, they were in a room in different multimedia forms. Some people were on a screen, some people were sitting there, and Jungkook was a giant for some reason. So the slogan for BTS was, I believe in connection. And theirs felt like a fake ad from a futuristic TV show like Black Mirror. I don't know, it was just a weird atmosphere in theirs. And I'm not sure about the tone of all these videos, but it seems to me that Big Hit is trying to recognize that fans want more than just an idol group that produces music. They want groups to have a philosophy or some kind of purpose. And so that's why they're making each group have more of a mission statement. And it's all related to what HYBE is all about. And when they were talking about that their new slogan for HYBE being, we believe in music. So I think they're trying to emphasize more of an identity for each group than just music. But the basis is music. But then they want each group to be identified with bigger things than that.
Is that what Big Hit thinks? Because if that's what they think, then I don't agree with them. I think that people want cool songs, the catchy tunes, cool videos, good looks, nice outfits, and that's the extent of what people are really looking for. And I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are looking for like a philosophical leader or something in their pop stars. But I don't know. I don't think so. Like a philosophical or political leader. Is that what they're looking for?
Well, I think
or a life coach.
They saw that BTS had success being role models or whatever, and like when they had their, love yourself, speak yourself, like when they have those kind of campaigns, so they're trying to bring that more to their other groups, I think.
I mean, I guess maybe it's possible. Like, there's a lot of things that I don't identify with the typical K-pop fan. I don't think that people are my friends or anything like that. I don't idolize them as idols, right? I don't even think of them as idols. But clearly that is a successful business model for a lot of customers. And so maybe that does resonate with a ton of their customers. But I don't know. I don't think that is a good idea. I wouldn't be personally looking to people who make music as your spiritual leader or philosopher or whatever they're looking to them as. Just if they produce good music and you enjoy it, then I think that should be enough. I think if you're even looking for more from them, that might be, I wouldn't say problematic. I hate that word. But I would say suboptimal, because I don't know that these are the best people to look for that.
Mm-hmm.
Just compartmentalize stuff. If you want philosophy, take a philosophy class. These people are here to make great music for you and entertain you. And I think maybe asking for more than that from them is an overworked 19-year-old. Not BTS, but some of these other groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an overworked, or not overworked. It's a very hardworking 19-year-old, 20-year-old who spends all their time practicing their performance and singing and dancing. Is that necessarily who you want to get life philosophy from? I'm not sure.
I think the problem is that K-pop groups aren't getting respect as musicians, and they're like not taken as seriously as other kinds of artists. So I think this is Big Hit's way of trying to bring more depth to it. And it's like they aren't necessarily going to do anything differently. They're still going to just make their music however they make it.
Mhm.
But it's like, we're in HYBE and we're all about teamwork. And then that's like a simple idea they can demonstrate because they're a
Right.
group that they were put together. And if you're a young fan, it's like, oh yeah, identify with that, having to work with different people and make that work. And like each one has their own little issue, and maybe that's why TXT's was not a serious one, because they just wanted to be like, well, let's have a funny one.
Yeah, I could see that. People don't maybe respect them as much as artists in other genres. That's possible. But what I would do is, I don't know. I would reject this idea that they need to have any sort of depth or be respected for having depth.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to entertain you. And if they do, then that's great. Then that should be the extent of it. And they've done their job and they've done it well. Why do they need to do more than that? Why should you even be expecting anything more than being entertained by them? And I'm not sure that people, do they expect that from other artists? I'm not sure they do, right? I think maybe. Honestly, I think this may be the West sort of, I don't know if this is the right word, corrupting Big Hit's thinking. Like they may be looking at Western artists and thinking, oh, these artists, they stand for something. And they're not just music artists and entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they feel that their artists, that's a good model for them to mimic. But I don't think it is. I think that there's nothing wrong with just being an entertainer. I think it's amazing to be an entertainer. There's very few people who can thoroughly entertain millions of people. And that job itself entails a lot of talent, a lot of time, a lot of hard work. So why is that not enough? I argue that it should be more than enough. And it's more than a lot of people can even achieve. So why is there an expectation that you do more than that?
Mm-hmm.
More than being an entertainer?
Yeah, that's already a huge job in itself.
Yeah, so odd. Although, it was just a promo they shot. It's not like I don't know.
Yeah, they said HYBE's mission statement now, it says, with music, we move people's hearts, make a positive impact, and change people's lives together.
Yeah, that sounds very high-minded for just we make pop music. For the majority of consumers, I would imagine, it's just, good entertainment. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it's a small place to occupy, just being good entertainment. I think that's important and great and a big enough role to fill.
I think this all has to do with where Big Hit, I guess we have to call it HYBE now, I keep forgetting, but how they see themselves as a company. And that's why if you watch the new brand presentation that was on YouTube on March 18th, they go into all of this, and it was the CBO, Hee Jin Min, who's a woman. Her project was to reshape the whole brand, so I guess all of this is her idea, all of this we believe in, whatever, and all of this new ideals for the company, I think, came from her. And it seems like they put a lot of work into all this, like changing the brand and all that. And even when they presented about how they're designing the building, like it was very detailed, and it's like, we're gonna have employees, you can book your workspace by phone or whatever, by an app, and then that's how you can decide where you want to work that day. And it's like all this very like futuristic kind of things. And I think they see themselves as like a Google. We're going to set forth this kind of company philosophy and make it like a very forward-thinking workplace in addition to just a place that makes music. So it just seems like with the design of that whole building, and then they're reshaping their brand, that they have these like really big ideas about being a huge company in the future. And it's like that whole building design, it reminded me of remember Google, when they first started out, everybody was like, whoa, those workplaces are so different. It's like you have like a nap area, and you have like a place where you get unlimited food, and people can be there 24 hours a day, and there's a gym on site. They had all these new things that were never at any other workplace, like all these benefits. So I think HYBE is trying to change the future of working, and they even talked about people work remote a lot nowadays because of what happened with COVID, and now we're used to that, and we're used to not having a set place to work. So I think they see themselves as, setting the template for other companies. So that's just why I think they have all these different changes in mind. They see themselves as being this really huge company. Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can find BTS Happy Hour on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and many other podcast platforms. New episodes weekly. To support the podcast, please comment and share on social media, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or give us a rating on your podcast app. Follow BTS Happy Hour on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where there's a Facebook page and a Facebook group. You can also go to the website at btshappyhour.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional content. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.